Welcome, the CIRF report of all CIRF reports. I'm Chris McCleary. I'll be your host for this week's energy report. And we have a lot of things happening, as you know. We have a Halloween, full moon, and right there is a huge, that's just part of it. Then you've got probably the biggest election in U.S. history that's going to affect the world. And it's going to affect just about everything. And is it a coincidence that these two things are on the same CIRF week? The full moon is on October 31st, a Halloween. And so that's right in the middle of our CIRF week. We do CIRFs from Thursday to Wednesday. So like basically just Wednesday to Wednesday. So if you're new here, we start with our summary slide. And the reason why this is important is because we're triangulating different influences to get the very center. We're looking for the overlap of all the circles. Now, what are all the different circles? The biggest one is going to be the purple, always the biggest one because it's astrology and there's so much happening in the sky, or normally there is. And each one of these different archetypes and alignments have different energy patterns. And so what we're looking for is the main gist of the astrology. This week, of course, full moon, Mercury squares. We have Uranus mixed in there. And I've got a little surprise for when we go into the day-by-day astrology. And I'm going to say it right now. This could be the most important CIRF report for you personally. I'm not a fearmonger, as you know. It looks very scary. The collective is in scare mode. As you can see, the dream bot, that's the collective unconscious, the green circle. It's bad, wrong, afraid. It's a medley of family in there too. But the collective is afraid. Now, if you don't have time to watch this whole CIRF report, I highly encourage you just to finish this little summary and then slide to the end, at least get the solution, and then come back later and watch the whole thing because it is a doozy. And especially for the solution, which is what we do here as well, we triangulate for the solution for the best actions that will accentuate or for you to be able to use the energies the best. Now, and that's going to be the solution, but the solution's at the end. Now, how do you behave or how do you act to accentuate the energies for this week? Well, this week's energy is really strong. I've introduced the black segmented circle for this CIRF report because it's the U.S. presidential election. Just the election by itself is an influence. Everything about the election from leading up to it to, people are expecting voter fraud. People are expecting maybe some worst case scenarios to play out. No final decision, etc. So everything about that leads to unexpectedness, which is right at the heart of the astrology. And I don't want to say everything in astrology. You got the full moon, that brings out the crazies. Halloween brings out the crazies. Uranus throws in change to make everybody crazy. So it's pretty crazy. And then on top of that, you got the Venus opposed Mars and a little surprise that I'm not going to talk about now in the astrology. And I've got that in the day-to-day one. So hang in there. And then the I-Ching, we cast out our 6 coins or 6 lines, and we got the creative. I have a lot to say about that. And as you know, the creative is the archetype of the sun. It's the yang. It's the masculine. It's the outward emanating sun. It's creative. It without it, there is no universe. That, according to the I-Ching, it's what starts everything. It's I-Ching hexagram number 1. And so, is there any coincidence that that's the one hexagram that shows up with all this other crazy energy? I think it's highly correlated with a congruency score of 0.98. And the reason why the dream bot is indicated as kind of perpendicular to the rest is because of this family aspect. That's inside of the astrology, but the bad, wrong, afraid is I'm thinking that the component of this energy from the Dreambot, from the collective, is coming from the idea of change. There is going to be some unexpected events according to Uranus and the full moon and the rest of the astrology. So that's why, the bad, good, bad, wrong, change doesn't have to be bad. And this could be very good change. This could be unbelievable, positive change, but all bets are off. So that's why the little bit of this circle, the bad, wrong, afraid, is actually outside of the astrology because it's not all bad. I didn't want to denote that. It's just crazy and different, and you'll see that. So the epitome of crazy is the overall energy. Expect the unexpected. That's what we typically say about Uranus, but with the surprise that I've got to show you, you'll see why this is all the epitome of crazy. So hang in there. We're going to start with the Dreambot first. Hang in there. If you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. And I do appreciate all your comments. It helps out the channel. Likes, shares. Thank you. All right. So a lot of people can be helped by this particular CIRF report because I believe that even without the astrology the way it is, the Dreambot the way it is, I think people can pretty much read that things are going to get crazy. And but what do you do about it? That's the most important part, and hang on to the end. But right now, let's talk about the Dreambot. This is the collection of dreams, and this is important because it's the subconscious. It's the Carl Jung's collective unconscious. All right, the red arrows. It's all about, the bubble supports this idea of that we're living in a bubble, maybe like the stock market or financial bubble. But the bubble can burst, right? Mom, we go crying to mom, hiding, killer, wrong, bad, afraid. However, so there's a lot of negativity in these red arrows. The blue lines, however, are dad, brother, grandpa, mom. So like family. So there's a sense of family. It's not a very big meme, but there is a sense of family in this Dreambot run. Where does that show up? Now, let's look at the astrology. And as you know, this is our October, and this black vertical line here. I'm going to get my focus pen. The black line here indicates the start of our week, and we just had Mercury and Venus going into Libra from both sides, or bracketing both sides of Libra. And so things, at least from your mental standpoint, communication standpoint, and relationship, should start to feel a little bit more balanced or justice, or, so whatever that Libra archetype means for you. And then we have November. We're halfway through the week. We have on Saturday Halloween, and then November begins. And you can see that Mercury is going to start to go direct, still in Libra, at the end of our week. And look how clean the sky is starting to look. Remember all those T-squares? Yeah, we've got some major squares here. That's right here. But overall, starting to get pretty clean. And there's looking ahead, there's some more squares in here. This is the Venus squares. But November has quite a few trines and some adjustments, but not nearly the craziness that you can see that October had. So anyway, I throw that out. I think that should be a breath of fresh air as we head into more of the middle of November. But let's look at our day to day, starting with Thursday, the 29th. We have huge pressure on, so this is the 29th at noon. I do all these day-to-day things at noon unless there's something big happening like a full moon. I'll put it on that day, on that time. But we have, obviously, it almost look like a T-square because you have the opposition. You have Sun oppose Uranus. Hint, hint, this is the kind of the stage for the full moon. As the moon is approaching Uranus, all that is going to be opposing the sun. So on the one hand, it's our ego is kind of in disequilibrium if we're not able to hold both of these items at the same time, my ego and the change in the material world. That's Uranus, maybe a change in the material world back to the way it was, as Uranus is in retrograde in Taurus. Taurus is kind of a contradiction with Uranus, because Uranus, eccentric, very airy, and can get insights. Well, Taurus is the bull. And so, the finer things in life, but we're talking about big railroads and trains and bulls that have a problem shifting gears. And with Uranus, you do have to shift gears, and you don't know which way it's going to go. You don't even know that a change is coming necessarily. All that you know is that nothing's staying the same with Uranus. And if you expect the unexpected, it'll probably even show you something different that you had on the table. So you don't even put things on the table for Uranus, because that'll guarantee that you don't have those options. But this gaggle here, Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn, it'll be here all week. We're going to lose the Mars pressure. This is these squares and these triple squares. There's a lot of pressure on this positive transformation of the way things have already been. This is the pressure against what we consider to be, as the silent majority, as the positive transformation of government. And there's a lot of pressure on this thing. Now, it doesn't mean it can't be done. It doesn't mean these are frozen, but these are kind of isolated. And you notice the only easy way out of this energy, I mean, you're like, this feels like a catch-22. Can't go that way. It's like fighting against fight itself. That's Mars. And then fighting against your mind and communication. But the only way out, easy way out, is, beautiful Venus. And that could be finance, easy energy. It's the only easy energy out of this positive transformation of government is finance and Venus and glorious. So could be beautiful there. That's a real nice aspect. And overall, just look how clean it's starting to get. All right. We've missed this. It's been a long time since we had nothing happening in here. All right, let's move on to Friday. Like I said, the Mars square is drying up. We have the moon is on its last stage before it gets to the full moon, and Mercury in retrograde going through Libra. He's only got a few more days until he starts going direct, and then you're going to see this square again. But nonetheless, that's kind of stale. I should probably going to just be used to it. It's like you're tired of this transformation, tired of how slow it's becoming, and mentally, I'm talking mentally, it's like sluggish to even think about and contemplate this positive transformation. It's like you've already given up. That's what this Mercury in retrograde square, all of that feels like. So don't give up. Don't give up. And so anyway, you've got the sun still with his opposition to Uranus, and that's about it. Now, Saturday in the morning, this is for 9:48 a.m. Central Time, Daylight Savings Time. And I think, oh boy, I should have done my research. I think there's a time change in here, and it just aggravates the hell out of me. I don't understand this whole change the time thing. I've never understood it. I've always been real bitter about it. Of course, I grew up in an area where it didn't have to change time. So as when I became an adult and moved out is when I had to start changing the clock, and it didn't make any sense to me. But whatever. So yeah, spooky because it's on Halloween. This is a full moon, but guess what? It's the second full moon in October. And so that becomes a blue moon. It's a blue full moon, and it's in Taurus. All this is kind of contradictory, because we talked about, like the bull is nice and steady, but a full moon's real crazy. And then you got over Uranus. Check this out. You've got at 8 Taurus, 8 degrees Taurus, 38 minutes. Only 3 minutes away, you've got Uranus. That is basically right on top of each other. And this is already craziness. Full moon is sort of a crazy energy. Then you add on there Halloween, and that brings the wolves out and the crazies, and dressing up and trying to be as spooky as you can. But then you've got Uranus, and Uranus, like I said before, you can't even try to predict where he's going to change things. You can't predict when you're going to get the aha insights. That's the Uranus archetype as well. But all that's spooky because you don't know what the world is going to be like. You don't know what the change is going to be. And if it's going to be something to do with the material world, material is very much a Taurus thing, earthy energy in the material world, the finer things, big old change with that. Okay. And now just realize, even though Halloween's supposed to be spooky, Uranus doesn't have to be spooky. It doesn't have to be. The only spooky part is you don't know how to predict it. You don't know where it's headed. But with Uranus, it could be a very positive thing. All right. So let's not get in the business of analyzing whether or not it's going to be positive or negative. But just as I say that, about ready to show you my surprise. That's the zodiac that I have over to the right. I'm going to drag that over here in a second. I'm going to show you something crazy. But we also have our minds. Check out our minds. Not only do you have Mercury with the triple square like we talked about, but we also have on the descendant is Gemini at the time of the full moon. And so in and around this full moon time frame, mind is having problems, and it's hard to rationalize things. Logic is not easy. It's very conflicted. You might be feeling an inability to make sense of things, and that makes sense. I mean, that's a contributing factor. But on the descendant, the mind is the last place that's showing to the world. You're hiding your mind on the descendant. And by definition, the part of fortune is on the descendant. So that says that things are less fortunate, And it's like, I don't like going to bad areas of the sky, but this is all hidden and it's dark. And that contributes to this Halloween thing. But we're not even done yet. On the ascendant at the time of the full moon is Sagittarius. So on the positive side, it might feel optimistic around 2 hours from, so the latter half of the morning, if you're in the central time zone, the latter part of the morning on Saturday the 31st might feel very optimistic to you. And that's about how long these zodiacs hang out in the houses, or on the ascendant, is about 2 hours. And Sagittarius, obviously wisdom, optimism, and that could feel really good. But the point is deeper wisdom. So I just talked about how your lower mind, your rational mind, is on the descendant, and it's cluttered and it's conflicted. So with the Mercury squares. So let's hope that there's some Sagittarius wisdom, some deeper wisdom, some philosophy that comes out in the open, and it might be associated with you communicating to other people. This is the first house. It's the ascendant. This is your mask. So pay attention to how you're talking. Pay attention to the world around you, and you might see some optimism and some deeper wisdom in that. Now, let's bring in my surprise for you. The reason why I don't normally put Lilith on these charts is because I don't know much about her. And when this is kind of appropriate, because when I went into my software to include this thing, it crashed the system, and I had to spend a couple hours just now replenishing my standard layout here. So next week will look a little different. I did make some changes, but Lilith is right here. And look at that. So technically within 7 degrees, just a little bit more than 7 degrees. So technically within a conjunction, Black Lilith, that might be hopefully enough for most of you on why that looks like a massive contributor to this Halloween, Uranus, full moon. What am I missing? Just total unexpected craziness. And the archetype of Black Lilith could be, just the wild form of divine feminine. Some people paint it as extremely negative. I'm not there yet. In my course, in my training certificate, we didn't spend much time at all in the Lilith. So that's why I don't include it on there. But I think I will. I think I'll start to at least put that on the map and see where we look here. So we've got a massive amounts of influences and coincidences, synchronicities that indicate that this full moon is extra weird, extra crazy, extra unexpected, extra, I would say, wild. That's the Black Lilith archetype. And let's see here. Oh, do I include this? We got the opposite side, supposedly, as I did some brief research on Black Lilith. It's a point in the sky. This one is not the asteroid. All right, so this is a true Lilith. And on the opposite side it's not indicated here, and I forget the name of it, but it's basically a phallic symbol. And Venus, the archetype of the divine feminine, arguably, is right next to this phallic symbol. I find that very interesting. So anyway, like tons of crazy here on October 31st. Expect the unexpected. Expect for your mind to not be able to catch up. Expect that there's going to be some deeper wisdoms around you as you communicate to other people. Things might look real negative for the positive transformation of government, et cetera, et cetera. And then finally, look how clean the aspect wheel is. That's pretty cool. This is about as clean as it's going to get as we move into... Oh, by the way, how often does Halloween have full moons? Not very often. The last time we had it was 2001, so it's like every 19 years-ish and change. And so you're only going to see 6 full moon Halloweens from 2000 to 2100 in this next 100 years, or in this current 100 century. You're only going to see 6. All right, here the big news is that Venus is adjusting to Uranus. Surprise, surprise. And then, the moon's making a nice emotions on the 1st of November. You might feel very easily positive about the transformation of government. You may not be able to attain it in your mind, as we talked about, but it's there. Monday, the mind is still confused. But the energy eases overall. You've got kind of like a mini, not even close to a grand trine, but close to a lot of trines in here. Sun trine Neptune. The ego is easily dreaming on this day. This is the day before the biggest election in world history, arguably. And Venus is still adapting to change. And then Venus has some easy energy to the moon, so nice emotions around harmony and peace. And that could be very peaceful in that regard, but mind still kind of cluttered, still in retrograde, communication still problematic, communicating over technology, problematic, that kind of thing. The Sun opposed Uranus is ending, and let's move on to Tuesday. Here's something pretty neat, is on November 3rd. So we talked about this before, and I have another surprise, or not a surprise, but just some more for later on about the time when the, traditionally the vote is counted and then the other person concedes, the loser concedes, pretty much late at night. So I got a late night zodiac just so we can see that. But this one is at noon on the 3rd. You have Mercury squared off to the government thing. So in your mind, again, all the same things, kind of cluttered, but notice Mercury now going direct. So what that means is the square is going to get stronger again before it improves and before Mercury goes finally into Scorpio. But that's later on in November. Sun trine Neptune, Neptune with the North Node and the Moon in a square. So future is bleak, maybe. Emotions are sort of darker, only because Gemini is still in the black on the in the noon or halfway on November 3rd. Gemini again is sort of in the darker areas of the sky, and so mind is sort of non-public, not ascertainable, that sort of thing. Mind is not a real sharp tool, all right, unfortunately. But what was really cool on November 3rd is that Mercury, Venus in Libra in her home, starts making a strong opposition to Mars, the other archetype in Aries, in his home. So you've got two contradicting planets. Got the masculine and the feminine opposing each other. Now, that doesn't have to be men versus women. That doesn't have to be a fight. The opposition's not necessarily a fight. It's begging you for balance. And so this could be a really good time for the collective to start to balance that male and female energy, because both of them are in their home rulership. And that makes them as strong as they can be to the, their that energy or that archetype. All right. So that's an opposition, but really an opportunity to gain more balance. And it's not just male, female. I mean, it's yin and yang. It's the universal archetypes of all this binary or, two, what do you call that? The not unitary, but binary world where you got two sides. All right. And so let's look at the 3rd at night. This is 11 o'clock at night, standard time. It's total chaos. Great, huh? How did it change? So you see that? It went from, so this is the earlier than day. It's like nothing. I mean, there's like a trine, there's an inconjunct and an opposition, but now it's like all of a sudden it gets really cluttered. You got two trines. Look at all these adapting. You've got the inconjuncts. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 inconjuncts. This gets real crowded. But what is inconjunct? It's adjusting. Everybody's adjusting. All right. So here's kind of the same energy repeated from Halloween. Full moon. It's kind of like that stamp. You probably see the same sort of pattern on the evening of the 3rd. Could be total. I don't want to say chaos necessarily or craziness, but certainly a whole lot of adapting. Your ego going to have to adapt to Uranus. It's the last part of that opposition. So exciting times. Then the adjusting continues with all these inconjuncts, and Mercury starting to make its way back in Libra. All right. So that's about it there. That's a lot there. Massive amounts. Now we get into the I-Ching reading. This was, I couldn't even, if I had to pick an I-Ching hexagram that would most typify like a full moon with Halloween, with the election time period, with all this change in Uranus and Black Lilith, I would probably have selected this Yang thing. It is, we don't know what's being created, but something is changing. It's heaven over heaven. It's the creative. It's massive Yang. That's the influence, folks. So I would rather have been this, the solution, but hey, it is what it is. So what is a creative power in terms of the influence? The flying dragon is an ancient symbol of a dynamic, arousing force that bodes well for creative movement. This is an excellent time to exercise leadership because you can be strong now. But be forewarned, success turns to failure if strength turns to arrogance. Now, I'm going to highlight this. I got it underlined here. Remember this. Failure if strength turns to arrogance. because so I'll just give you a head start. All the solution and the influence are all interconnected anyway. The creative power, the yang, is the influence, but the solution, part of the solution is Aries. So you got the fire, no coincidence, first sign of the zodiac, and it's a creative power, first hexagram of the I-Ching. But if failure, it's going to turn to failure if strength turns to arrogance. And so what's the biggest risk of an Aries? Is that arrogance. So we want to take the strength of the Aries, but not be arrogant about it. All right. I know I'm bleeding in the solution part of this, but it's all goes together. The first hexagram contains all yang lines as one of the most auspicious readings of the Book of Changes. Whoever draws this hexagram is assured success if they follow its 6 stages of development, starting with the bottom line. Believe in your dreams and persevere. Call upon your creative power, and it will work through you. All right. Now for us, we don't use any of the change lines. I mean, it told us to do that, all the 6 of them, but we had these 6 lines. We had the 2, 3, 4, and 6. And so just a brief summary of these different lines. Events are moving in the right direction. So there's one of your indicators. If things look bad or they look not as expected, just realize, according to the I-Ching, events are moving in the right direction. But the real game has not begun. Take a wider perspective. Taking wise advice and aligning yourself with an ally could lead to a significant breakthrough. This is also indicated in the rave mandala. Line 3, a sphere of influence is opening for you now. Let yourself be active, but do not expect an immediate reward. That's another thing. We're not starting new projects here in this week. We are probably letting go of expectations, I think, is probably the best thing to do, and just get ready to adapt. Be nimble. Don't, oh God, I'm getting way too far in advance. All right, let's finish the influence. Be bold, but be careful. That's exactly what the solution's saying. It's be careful, be mindful, but don't be too Aries, which is too bold or too impulsive. All right, line 4, your creative power is growing. Either lunge forward or draw back. It's natural to feel some anxiety at times like this. Oh yeah, we're already feeling the anxiety, and the collective called it afraid. The collective is afraid right now. Both sides are afraid. Paying careful attention will leave you without blame. And finally, line 6, avoid arrogance. Isolating yourself will only lead to sorrow. Hint, hint, that's part of the rave too. Don't be isolating. Relax and recharge your creative potentials. All right, that's it for the influence. Let's take a break and come back. When we come back, we'll talk about the solution. We're going to triangulate the most important part of the CIRF report. So hang in there. All right. And if you are having problems navigating the unexpected full moon energy and the election, and you need help getting that anxiety down, that's when you go to interzention.com, sign up for an appointment, and we will get you squared away. All right. The solution starts with the I-Ching. When you put those hexagram changes in, you get 3, water over thunder. Guess what that is? Difficulty at the beginning. Hey, this is implying that there's a new beginning. Interesting. I think no matter what, there's going to be some weird beginning in November 3rd, maybe November 4th. All right. But difficulty at the beginning. Gee, I wonder what might happen. Could there be more riots and more looting and strange behavior from contradictory folks? Difficulty at the beginning. So don't rush things now. Don't let events overwhelm you. That's a directive. Do not let events overwhelm you. As you take the first step, stay calm and ready to preserve. Ask for guidance and support. In this time, you're going to want to be in prayer, in groups, in meditation, connecting to your higher self. Whatever it is that you do in your divinity, I would be in contact the whole way. Don't wait until it gets bad. Start early. Start on Wednesday evening. Start tonight. Start on Thursday. Stay in connection with other folks, like minds, and your higher power. All right. Challenges lie ahead. Gee, really? But they are challenges you can handle. Ah, great. Gain strength, find courage. That's the Aries. Determination is Aries. Keep going is Aries and Taurus. A key challenge at this time is to maintain clarity. Avoid lunging at solutions. That's going to be hard as I'm telling you to employ your Aries-ness. We all have parts and aspects of all 12 astrological signs, or in Sidereal, it's 13. And we have these archetypes in us, according to Carl Jung. And so I'm asking you to tap into the Aries, but you got to avoid the downsides to Aries, which is impulsiveness. You don't want to be lunging at solutions. Do not start new project or relationship before thinking it through. But here's the problem with the thinking it through thing is mind and logic are kind of weak this week. So I would go for the deeper wisdom, and that's the importance of getting guidance up here, getting guidance and support. And be sure to enlist the advice of experienced people and wise supporters. So part of the solution is to get coaching, get counseling. It's a great time for that, according to the I-Ching. All right, now we get into our sidereal calculator, converter. The inside is the tropical, and I picked a time where the full moon is happening over Uranus. This is not the one with the black Lilith, but she's right there where the cursors are. And everything's crazy. I forgot to highlight where that is, but suffice it to say the full moon is in hexagram 27. We'll look at that. And like I talked about, Aries. All right. I'm going to do something a little bit different here. We're going to actually come back to 27. We're going to read this later because this is the advanced solution. So we have different layers of solution. And we're going to start with, remember, this is the influence. This is our big summary slide. It's the epitome of crazy. Full moon's crazy. Uranus makes you feel crazy. And the black Lilith, oh, scary, yes, but wild. And can't be tamed. It's untamable. So it's an untamable set of crazy. All right, great, huh? So here's the solution, and we're going to start with our I-Ching. Difficulty at the beginning. Don't let events overwhelm you. Ask for guidance. That's what we just read. The Rave Mandala is the gate of caring, and just in general, so I can give you an idea for what that is. This is our advanced part. Is preserve and protect. It's the gate of compassion. So it's asking you to have the power or maintain enough power so that you can care for the weak throughout this catastrophic or crazy period. All right. And then Sidereal Aries is saying be direct, be transparent, be vigorous, ardent, confident, intense, passionate, but avoid impulsiveness, impatience, being self-centered. We saw every one of those in the I-Ching as guaranteed to ruin your success. All right, so watch out for those, but you do want to be strong this week. All right, here we go. Here's the triangulation, and I'll read from the I-Ching after I read from this. So the goal for this week is mindfully attending to the 3 C's, which are change, chaos, and crazy. I would recommend not having many expectations. That way that you can not get too catastrophized by the events. Don't have expectations. It doesn't mean don't fight and don't be strong and don't be adaptable. It just means lose your expectations. Some people think it's almost guaranteed to have a failed election, but I'm thinking that anything that's on the table with Uranus is probably not going to be an option. So, maybe you put all those options on the table for Uranus, and so that it doesn't have, who knows, however you want to do that. But the I-Ching and Sidereal Aries combine very well. Things could get very difficult, so gain strength now, find courage, be direct and confident. The best action is to remain steady, persevering, and connected. So you do have that Taurus influence on the full moon, so it's not, the bull does stop to just eat, but it's a steady forward and it's momentum. And so step by step, slow and methodical. It's not starting big new projects this week. I don't think that would be the best time to do that. It's mainly just keep what you have going, keep those plates spinning, not recklessly, not pushing them too hard, but just keep them going. Okay. Do not let events overwhelm you. Stay connected no matter how separated you feel. That's an important one. Stay connected to lots of things. Your biggest support system. Make sure you stay connected there. Be a good time to call mom, call children, connect in that way in the social familial groups, but also connect mentally to the greater humanity. Connect to yourself. Connect to your. It's all about connection. Connect to your higher power, etc. But always know, even if the worst case happens, maybe like a 3 days of darkness. I'm not saying that's warranted here, but I'm not calling for that. But if it happens and it feels like you're separated from everybody, realize that you're not. And at a different level, a different wavelength, you are part of the silent majority. You are connected to the rest. Be mindful. Don't slouch. It's not a time to get drunk and get hungover and all that. We need to stay nimble. We need to stay, it's not like party time. At the full moon and Halloween, it is kind of feel festive and all that, but don't participate too much, or don't go too extreme. How about that? Don't get drunk. Don't take so many drugs that you're having to withdraw for the next few days. You want to stay on top of your game this week. All right. Be mindful. Don't slouch. No mania, no panic. Be in prayer and meditation. The highest action is about what I'm ready to read. So let's go back to, I do this a little bit differently than normal. This is the gate of caring. All right. This is the advanced part. What I just read is very important, but this, if you can remember this, I bet you're going to have a little bit more success than just those who just do the basic stuff. Without nourishment and caring, nothing can survive, particularly a human being who is so vulnerable for so many years. This is the mirror of the pure sexuality of the 59th gate. This is the gate that is both a fuel and an expression of sexuality. Through definition, the power of the sacral to move us is initiated. The drive to nourish is also in its polarity. The drive to be nourished or cared for. So we're on a continuum, basically. And the most advanced move or behavior this week appears to be to notice the continuum of needing to be nourished and being nourished. And not one or the other, but both. And you be part of the chain that nourishes those who are in need, so that not so that you get nourished when you need it, but so that you're part of that chain. You're going to get nourished if you nourish, that whole sequence. So we have the channel then of preservation, a design of custodianship. We are the custodians of humanity. Some people call us the light workers, the light beings. That's custodianship. And so even if you're not directly physically with other people, mentally connecting to the grander human scape there, or the human connection, and supply it with nourishment. Those who preserve and protect, this is a gate of compassion, the power to care for the weak, the sick, and the young, and can be impressively altruistic in its manifestation, as in the case of, should I say it, Mother Teresa of Calcutta. Why do I say that? I don't know if she was everything that we thought she was. There's kind of some videos or some pictures that have shown up with, so I say the Clintons and Fauci even, his mother, from my understanding, is Mother Teresa. So anyway, but you see the archetype there. It's nourishment and it's altruism at its best. So if you want to be the most successful this week, not in terms of wealth, but in terms of behaviors that manifest the most amount of energy, it's to follow this hexagram 27, and it is protecting the weak. The action is whatever's compassionate. It's altruism. All right. Above and beyond all this other stuff. I would start with start with the basics. Don't get bent out of shape. Don't get overwhelmed. Prepare. Keep your energy high. Good sleep. Don't party too hard, even though it's a kind of a traditional time. I mean, you've got tradition of full moon is a traditional time to party. You've got the Halloween on the same day to party. Then you've got people going nuts on election day. So a lot of things to get nuts about. I wouldn't do it. I would stay tame, stay connected to your higher authority and your inner self. Oh man, how'd we do? Yeah, probably the longest one ever, but this is the most important surf report. So have a great week this week. We are the silent majority. Where we go one, we go all. We are connected, folks. So when you feel separated, don't believe your mind. Your mind is weak this week. Your mind is almost, I wouldn't say useless, but not real reliable. So we are connected. We are together. We are the silent majority. Take care, everybody. Be safe. See you next week.